After a long life in politics, former Democratic Speaker of the House and Vice President John Nance Garner dies at age 98 in Uvalde, Texas. He helped steer the nation out of the Great Depression and laid the foundation for today's Democratic Party. Yet his impact on American history is barely known today.
The history of the modern vice presidency really begins with John Nance Garner.
If Garner had lived 50 years earlier or 50 years later, everyone would know him.
He is born to the horse and buggy era, and he dies in 1967 in the space age. That is an incredible transformation to live through.
He was born in 1868, and the state that John Nance Garner grew up in was very much a southern state. He grew up in northeastern Texas, a cotton plantation country. I think it's really important to remember the southern legacy.
In the 1840s, his widowed grandmother moves to Texas from Rutherford, Tennessee. She single-handedly steers an ox-drawn wagon with 6 children to Blossom Prairie, Texas. During the Civil War, one of her sons serves as a courier in the Confederate Army, is captured and released from a Union prison when the war ends. He returns to Blossom Prairie, where he and his wife have the first of their 5 children, John Nance Garner.
Of course, he was raised in Blossom Prairie, Texas. Wasn't poor, I guess, but he said his daddy offered him a $2.50 gold piece if he'd pick 100 pounds of cotton that day. That he was up before daylight, and he picked 100 pounds, and he got his $2.50 gold piece, and he bought a donkey. And he had it bred to a horse, and got him a mule, and he started making money.
When Father raised a full crop, he would buy a full barrel of whiskey. And if he raised half a crop, he would buy a half barrel. He was a man to keep things in proportion.
The Garners make their home a welcoming place and always keep an unlocked door for neighbors to come over to drink, play poker, and talk politics. Garner enrolls in Vanderbilt University, but he's forced to leave in his first semester after battling both academic difficulties and tuberculosis. He returns to Texas and, determined to become an attorney, pursues an apprenticeship at a local law firm. At age 21, he's admitted to the Texas State Bar.
In Blossom Prairie, East Texas, he's never able to become the top dog. He makes a race for a local office and he loses by just a few votes. One of his mentors tells him, you know, if you have any aspirations of going anywhere, you're pretty soon going to become old man Garner, old John Garner, if you stay here. When he moves to Uvalde, he's leaving for the western part of Texas, the frontier.
In Uvalde, Garner finds work in the law practice of Clark and Fuller. He becomes a circuit rider, traveling on horseback from courthouse to courthouse across the state. Often camping under the stars, he argues cases from land title disputes to horse and cattle theft. Practicing law in Texas is the gateway for the ambitious Garner to run for the office of circuit judge at the age of 23. Unbeknownst to him, another young Texan was determined to stop him. Mariette Eddie Rayner was born in 1872. Her father was a Swiss immigrant who first sought his fortune in the California gold rush. He then moved to Texas, where he acquired 36,000 acres of ranch land at a time of intense conflict between Native Americans and white settlers pushing into Texas. Eddie's mother dies when she's a year old, leaving her father to raise her and her brother until he remarries. She faces a lonely existence on the ranch and is persuaded by a friend to attend business school in San Antonio. Eddie studies stenography, one of the few skills women could practice to find employment in those times. The resilient young woman challenges Garner running for the office of circuit judge because of his reputation as a hard drinker and poker player. She doesn't think a man like him is fit to be a judge. One night, returning home to Sabinal, she's introduced to the popular Garner by a mutual friend. They look one another straight in the eye, and an immediate attraction is formed.